Do you currently own a reinsurance company or thinking about starting one? Reinsurance is one of the greatest ways to reduce risk and build long-term wealth. But who's your partner? Welcome to the Preferred Dealer Solutions family of companies, your one-stop shop for all things reinsurance. Preferred Dealer Solutions is our consulting company. We build custom programs for lease here, pay here, buy here, pay here, retail dealers, and independent finance companies. Our goal at Preferred is to ensure growth, increase profitability, and create long-term loyalty through our portfolio of reinsurable products. Precision Claims is more than your standard claims administration company. We build custom claims processes for each individual client and provide you the claims data, reporting, and quota share billing that is important to your operation. Preferred Reinsurance is our accounting company. We provide our clients with monthly sessions and financial statements to ensure you have the data you need to make informed decisions. Preferred Dealer Solutions. Reinsurance done right.
Hey, lease here, pay here dealers. Did you know TaxMax can easily help your dealership boost down payments in the first quarter? Yes, it's true and very simple. TaxMax provides the lease here, pay here dealer the ability to put a file and drive button on their website and your social media pages. While customers are looking at your inventory during tax time, they can easily click on the File and Drive button to file their taxes directly with TaxMax, all from their phone. When the same-day tax refund advance is released, the refund is sent to the dealership first to be used as a large down payment. There is no risk, and the dealership doesn't have to lift a finger. You will have customers arriving at your dealership to pick up their tax refund, pick out the car they want to lease, provide you with a large down payment, and then drive off. It's that simple. Go to TaxMax.com today to join the thousands of dealers who are maximizing their tax season. Ask about our 50% off discount on our VIP package. That's TaxMax.com. And remember, nobody gets you more down payment money than TaxMax.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We're live from San Diego and the Lease Here, Pay Here Summit. We've got a couple of smart accountants here to talk about debits and credits today. We're going to get down to the nitty gritty. No, I'm kidding. We're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about the business of leasing, of course. We're happy to have Chad Martin, who I've known, I think, since Nixon was president, maybe somewhere back in that time period. Yeah, it's been a while. But yeah, and then also we got JP Bryan, partner in the firm. And so we just saw you guys do your presentation in the other room. And so we wanted to have a chance to chat with you. And especially we like with these broadcasts to talk about people who are new to the business or maybe facing a pivot in business. Obviously, we're in San Diego for the leasing conversations. And so we can talk some about how leasing is different, obviously, from an accounting standpoint. We're familiar with the buy here, pay here side and how that looks for a buy here, pay here dealer. And then you guys are really specialists when it comes to leasing and lease accounting. You guys live in that space a lot, right?
Yeah, we do have a high concentration.
Yeah, you do the other as well, I'm sure. So, yeah, so basically what we want to have a chance to talk about today, a handful of things, but I want to first get your perspective. I heard you talking about that you felt like it was a time for dealers to get real precise and getting through their P&Ls and through their balance sheet, look at especially P&Ls and look at line items and making sure that they're optimizing, obviously, at the yield on assets and optimizing, their margins where they can. So you want to speak to that, kind of share with what you shared the audience in there?
Sure. I think we're at a point where, pre-pandemic and the 2019 and prior, we had quite a few, during that time from 2019 to now, we've had a lot of expense creep. Mm-hmm. Expenses have gone up. Inflation's gone up. Yeah. Cost of cars gone up. It's, labor. And then the big one is interest expense.
Of course.
So all of these expenses together, one or two big ones and a bunch of little ones over time, mm-hmm. Have really impacted the bottom line of dealers.
Right.
And I think we have an opportunity now to kind of take a step back and evaluate mm-hmm. Those lines. Sure. Look for opportunities to save, renegotiate contracts, right. Whatever the case might be.
Right.
But I don't think that expense structure today is ever going to go back to the days of old.
Right. Seems unlikely. JP, your thoughts on that? Anything to add there?
Absolutely. Great points. I think that we have not fully kept up with all this cost creep and operating expenses, and we're still attempting to do the same volume that we once did. But in many cases, our portfolio shrunk a little bit. Maybe that was strategic, yet our operating expense structure is still the same. And so there are several maybe avenues to mitigate that. Many people's answer is more volume, and they try, and it's not necessarily there. And we need to borrow more money to do it. It's a higher cost of capital. So it's this kind of perpetual issue. And, we try to think outside the box, and a lot of dealers have, where they say, I've got some great people, or, that I can really leverage to get creative and focus on our strengths and open that retail arm. Or we have a dealer that said, I've got a friend an hour away who has a portfolio and has pivoted to wholesaling. They don't necessarily want to service that anymore. We're going to collect it for them and do it well because we have a rock star team to do so. It's a kind of a one-off, but it lends to the idea of, what are your strengths and how can you leverage those to do something a little different, or, find some more profit.
Sure. Well, you talked about, and I love the phrase cost creep. I can't say that I've heard it exactly that way, but when you talk about more volume, I'm thinking, well, more volume for most dealers means more cash out the door, right? They're funding those contracts typically, whether that's a lease or retail installment contract typically. And so that a lot of the things that I heard you list are very much direct cash expenses. Obviously our cost of money and the interest expenses support our debt, and those kind of things are very direct costs. So we know it's costing dealers more. So I think generally what I'm hearing you advocate for, and I heard you guys take a really consultative approach to the whole thing, is you're advocating for just making sure that we're lean, we're trimming, our expenses where we can, and we're optimizing earning opportunities, where that's possible.
Well, I think a lot of dealers, because they have shrunk their portfolios, right? They're holding on to that one extra collector because they're a good employee. Maybe it's the hard decision to let that person go, right? You just can't support them.
Right.
Or it is finding ways to grow the portfolio to maximize all the assets that you have, that you can spread your expenses across. Maybe it's you have an extra bay, available. Maybe you start doing, if you can find the right techs, which are hard to find as well. But maybe it's finding that tech to put in there and do outside work and have a different revenue stream.
Sure.
So it's just trying to take everything that you do have and own, and is it making you money? Maybe it's a side lot that you can lease. Maybe, just looking and thinking outside the box right now.
Yeah. Nice. So I think one of the things that we've been kind of experimenting with more recently is we've been, in fact, working with the folks at LHPH Capital, kind of, I'll call it super analyze, comparative analysis on leasing versus buy here, pay here. And you guys would know this quite well. Like we're not here to sell leasing. We're not here to promote that to anybody. When we meet dealers, we're just trying to introduce them to those options and make sure they're aware of the options and can kind of compare that. One of the things I'm really discovering, we talked about it with Dan Grosvenor, and it's one of the things we're seeing as we kind of analyze those numbers differently than the way I've traditionally done that, is that I'm becoming even more aware when you stack them side by side of how much front end profit there is in a buy here, pay here, a traditional retail installment contract. Not only do you have the gross profit of the sale, which most dealers manage through a discount through an RFC, which we know that happens, but then you also have the front loaded interest income and a simple interest understanding, which is what most dealers are doing. There's more of that income on the front end. And so it just, when you start to stack those out side by side, because you might just explain to listeners who aren't familiar, when a dealer moves to leasing, that income is experienced differently.
Sure.
You might just express that.
Take that.
Yeah, it absolutely is. It's in a financial, we won't get too granular. For our retail installment contract, we have that sale up front and that gross profit, that $5 or $6 grand, even if discounted, hits our bottom line at $3 or $4 grand. And it looks great out of the gate because we have all this gross profit. We don't have the charge off yet. But juxtapose that with our leasing buddies at the point of sale. Sorry, Steve Levine, point of lease.
Oh yeah.
It's not a sale. We have our assets still on the books that we start depreciating, and we only get revenue as we collect the payments.
Right.
And so you're covering all this overhead, all this cost with a growing portfolio. If you got 30 customers, on the books in month one, but you have all your startup costs and overhead, it looks bad. So even though it's very close to the same overall cash flow experience, overall customer experience, and my mind always goes to our lifeblood as dealers is often our bank, and preserving that relationship and educating them on why it looks this way or that way. In the year of a change from buy here, pay here to lease here, pay here, you're going to take a book loss on paper. It doesn't mean your business is bad. It just means you go from all these gross profits that hit your bottom line to all of a sudden a small leasing stream that's growing.
Yeah.
And so to me, it's as much a education process on who your stakeholders are, who your lifeblood is, and how they view it. And you can be able to explain it.
Yeah. So one of the things I see, would be different in leasing is that thing we talked about. It's front loaded. When you're in a lease situation, if customer's payment is $500 as an example, then that's a static income stream, right? The depreciation or the interest, or what would be principal reduction, in the lease is static. The interest income or money factor and the income that we enjoy on the lease side is static. So it just makes for a little different environment for the dealers. It's a little more predictable, for one thing, right?
Sure. Lease accounting is more cash basis.
Okay.
So you're only recognizing the money that you receive,
right,
and the expenses that go out, right?
Mhm.
So it's pretty simple. So
Right.
it's a lot easier to get to a more cash basis, P&L
Right.
on a lease model than it is a buy here, pay here, or retail model.
Yeah. So for us, it's not, again, we're not here to sell leasing. We just want to make sure folks get comfortable with it, because we think for a lot of dealers, it's a really excellent solution, right? It can be, and there are limitations. We've talked about with some of the others. We're aware of the software limitations. We're not here to talk about names of providers, but we have some limitations in leasing. But even with those considered, there's some real positives that I think certainly dealers who are facing a pivot or who are stepping into self-financing really ought to have a good hard look at leasing as an option.
And that can be state specific, right? So what works in one state may not be a benefit in the
Good
other.
point.
And so, dealers really have to take a step back and look at what the regulatory environment is for their
Absolutely.
state. There's going to be pluses and minuses with both
Sure.
in all areas,
Yeah.
but it is another option out there
Right.
that hasn't, it's starting to get more attention,
Mhm.
but it hasn't been fully educated on, dealers haven't been fully educated,
Sure.
completely on how that looks.
Right. Well, I think, Michelle, we can wrap it up there. I appreciate you gentlemen making time to come to the microphones and help educate folks. And we're glad to have a chance to spend a little time with you in San Diego. And I would just say, folks, if you're looking for an accounting firm, obviously, Martin and Bryan, those folks know both independent retail, buy here, pay here, and then there's leasing and lease here, pay here. So these folks can definitely help. And what I can tell is that there are firms that do accounting, and then there are firms that do consultative accounting. And I can hear that you guys are kind of in that second group.
For sure.
Right. Okay.
For sure.
Well, thanks again for making time. We'll see you.
We are excited to bring you a digital platform exclusively for Buy Here, Pay Here education. Dive into topics that matter most. Explore our courses, checklists, and scripts. Watch video training by experts in our space, plus gain exclusive access to our private Facebook group. What could you possibly be waiting for? Become a better deal.
Every single time you sell a car, your customer has to purchase insurance, and oftentimes they purchase GAP and/or a service contract. That money bypasses you and goes straight to a third-party vendor. Why not collect it instead? We've helped hundreds of dealers set up their very own reinsurance company and offer their own warranties, service contracts, GAP, and collateral protection insurance. Learn more from Dealer Re. We have the longest running track record in our space, not just for success, but for compliance. We are a faith-based company. We are a family-owned and operated business. We are the gold standard of reinsurance. Check out dealerre.com today.